Pranava Sarvavanmayaha Devo Narayano Nanya Ekognir Varna Evacha. In the Satya Yuga, the first millennium, all the Vedic mantras were included in one mantra, Pranava, the root of all Vedic mantras. In other words, the Atharva Veda alone was the source of all Vedic knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, was the only worshipable deity. There was no recommendation for worship of the demigods. Fire was one only, and the only order of life in human society was known as Hamsa. Purport. In Satya Yuga, there was only one Veda, not four. Later, before the beginning of Kali Yuga, this one Veda, the Atharva Veda, or some say the Yajur Veda, was divided into four, Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva, for the facility of human society. In Satya Yuga, the only mantra was Omkar, Om Tat Sat. The same name, Omkar, is manifest in the mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Unless one is a Brahmin, one cannot utter Omkar and get the desired result. But in Kali Yuga, almost everyone is a Shudra, unfit for pronouncing the Pranava, Omkar. Therefore, the Shastras have recommended the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Omkar is a mantra, or Maha Mantra, and Hare Krishna is also a Maha Mantra. The purpose of pronouncing Omkar is to address the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And the purpose of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is the same. Hare, O energy of the Lord. Krishna, O Lord Krishna. Hare, O energy of the Lord. Rama, O Supreme Lord, O Supreme Enjoyer. The only worshipable Lord is Hari, who is the goal of the Vedas. Vedaischa sarvar aham eva vedyaha. By worshiping the demigods, one worships the different parts of the Lord, just as one might water the branches and twigs of a tree. But worshiping Narayan, the all-inclusive Supreme Personality of Godhead, is like pouring water on the root of the tree, thus supplying water to the trunk, branches, twigs, leaves, and so on. In Satya Yuga, people knew how to fulfill the necessities of life simply by worshiping Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same purpose can be served in this age of Kali by the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra as recommended in the Bhagavatam. Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Vrajet. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one becomes free from the bondage of material existence and thus becomes eligible to return home, back to Godhead. Om Ajnana Timirantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Tadati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Swahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Swahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Eka eva pura veda pranava sarvavanmayaha devo narayana nanya ekognir varna evacha. This describes the situation in Satyayug. Pura, previously, at that time, Eka eva Veda. There was only one Veda, not four. The division into four was unnecessary. That was done later by Srila Vyasadeva, before the beginning of Kali Yuga. Everyone's memory becomes shorter, everyone's qualification is diminished. So he divided the Vedas into four. But originally, there was only one Veda. Eka eva pura Veda. And pranava sarvavanmaya. There was one mantra, pranava. Pranava means Omkar. Okay? Two terms are identical. Sarvavanmaya, which is which gives the import of the Vedas, or which, how does Prabhupada give that? Consisting of all the Vedic mantras. Everything is all the Vedic utterances. Van means statements, utterances. Sarvavan Mayaha. Pranava is made up of all of these mantras combined. They're all packed into this one sound, Omkar. So everyone chanted this one mantra. You didn't need lots of mantras. One mantra was enough. Omkar. Now still people chant Omkar, but usually we associate Omkar with impersonal meditation. People meditate on some impersonal absolute by chanting Om, Om, or they meditate on this and that demigod, chanting Om, Om. So one might think that, well, in Satyuga, they were also doing this. They were doing impersonal meditation. But here, Devo Narayana na Anya, there was only one person who was the object of all worship or all meditation. There was one Deva, one worshipable deity, Narayan, na Anya, no one else. No one else, no Shiva, no Durga, no Ganesh, no Surya, no. Simply Narayan. So Devo Narayana Nanya. By chanting the Omkar vibration, they were meditating on Narayan. Pranava Sarva Vedeshu. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, this Narayan, this Omkar represents me. Pranava Sarva Vedeshu. So there was one deity, there was one mantra, and Eka Agnir. In the traditional fire sacrifices, there are 3 fires, but in Satyuga, there was only one, Eka Agnir. And Eka Varna, Eva. There was only one Varna, one division of human society. We have Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. They only had one division, which was called Hamsa. That means the highest position. Or does it say Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas? No, it doesn't seem to indicate that. So one, yes, it's Varna. So Varna means Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So Eka Varna. Only Hamsa, Paramhamsa. That was the situation in Satyuga. Therefore, Kriteya Dhyayato Vishnu, the method of perfection, method of attaining perfection in Satyuga was by meditation. Kriteya Dhyayato Vishnu, meditation on Vishnu, not impersonal meditation. Vishnu, Narayan, meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then gradually things deteriorate. Tretayam, Yajato, Mukai, and Treta Yuga. To accomplish the same end, we have to perform sacrifices. And Tretayam, Prateya Jayato Vishnu, Tretayam Yajato Mukai, and Dwapara Paricharyaya. In Dwapara Yuga, temple worship, big temple worship. These temples like Tirupati Temple and Ranganath Mandir, these were the norm in Dwapara Yuga. People would come to the temples would have so much going on. They would have very gorgeous worship of the Lord. They would have land that belonged to the deity. They would have so many things. People used to come and worship the deity and serve the deity, offer to the deity. Take shelter of the deity. But in Kali Yuga also, things decline still further. People are no longer interested very much in such temples. When I was in Padayatra in especially Tamil Nadu and also Andhra Pradesh, but especially Tamil Nadu, there's so many temples. Every few kilometers on the road, there's another big temple with these gopurams, big gates, and all of that. So many. We only know generally about a few big temples. Again, Tirupati Mandir, Ranganath Mandir, the Guruvayur Appam, or in, what is that? The Tiruvananthapuram. Big temples, nicely maintained. But for every temple that's nicely maintained and well attended, there are 20 temples that are neglected, 20 or more that are neglected. Some simply, some pujari is paid to look after the worship. That also very negligently. Things are not very clean. The upkeep is niggardly. The property is diminished. So there's simply like an old, like you see when you're driving along, you see these old warehouses that used to be used for some purpose. Now they've got broken windows and all of that. So the temples, so many are in a similar state. They're broken down, they're neglected, they're dirty. The worship doesn't go on very nicely. This is Kali Yuga. The temple worship doesn't attract people anymore. And even who wants to be a pujari? You know, there's a pujari, and then his son becomes the pujari, and his son, and the tradition is carried out through the generations. But now, no one's son wants to become a pujari. They go to IIT and they become software engineers and want to develop a career and get an American green card. People, why shall I stay in the temple? What will be the use of just waving a lamp before the deity? What kind of life is that? So people are no longer interested in attending, and people are no longer interested in serving as the attendants of the deity. Everything is broken down. The temples are no longer places of spiritual knowledge. It used to be that the pundits would be learned men. They could give so much spiritual knowledge. But now they're just maintaining, eating and sleeping. Not very much knowledge, only how to do this ritual, how to do that ritual. Maybe a few that are more enlightened, but for the most part, what is the benefit? Why shall we go? So the temples become neglected, and therefore in Kali Yuga, Kalo Tadikirtanat, the same benefit that one could achieve in previous ages, Yarapnoti Tarapnoti Kalo Sankirchakeshana. That same result can be achieved by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the method, and for the same purpose. Kriteya Jyayato Vishnu, the meditation in Satyayuga was on Vishnu. The meditation now is also on Vishnu. Krishna, Vishnu, same. So this is the best meditation in the Kali Yuga. Kalo nastyeva gatiranyata. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama. This will work. This is practical. This we've seen all over the world. We're spreading this Hare Krishna Kirtan, this Hare Krishna mantra, and people are taking it and their life changes. They give up gambling, intoxicants, meat eating, illicit sex, and they take seriously to devotional service to Krishna. They become Krishna-minded, Krishna-conscious, and dedicate their lives for serving Krishna, thinking of Krishna, becoming devotees of Krishna, offering obeisances to Krishna. So this all happens through Harinam Sankirtan. Harinam, Harinam. So it's proven effective. It's stated to be effective by Shastra, that this will work. This is prescribed for Kali Yuga. And it's demonstrated. Yes, this works. Meditation doesn't go anywhere. People meditate and their minds wander. People perform sacrifices by doing an Agnihotra Yajna, which means like lighting a ghee lamp and waving it before the deity. This is our Agnihotra Yajna. That also doesn't work. And the deity worship also. We see the deity worship works when there are when there's chanting. The chant in our temples, we have worship of the deity. That's just to help us. But without the chanting of Hare Krishna, the deity worship doesn't go on. The whole thing depends on the chanting. And even the main ingredient is the chanting. We do dress the deities nicely. We offer different kinds of food to the deity. We bathe the deity and perform the various ceremonies. But the most important thing is the kirtan. That's the real worship of the deity. And even if the other things are not very elaborately performed, if the kirtan is going on, then the deity is worshipped. Prabhupada said that about the installation of Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. For the satisfaction of the local people, some pundits were hired to perform the rituals according to Shastra. And Srila Prabhupada also engaged his devotees at the same time in doing kirtan. And Prabhupada said, I considered the kirtan to be the actual installation, not the rituals. The rituals were just to satisfy the public so that they would think, yes, this is bona fide, everything's been done. But actually, kirtan is sufficient. One time, Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhu, my godbrother, made a little murti of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur to present to Srila Prabhupada's godbrother Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. Well, Babaji Maharaj was staying in one of the Gaudiya Maths in a room upstairs. So we went and gave him the deity, and he looked. He was sitting on a bed. He looked, saw, and he said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna. So we went on like that for like half an hour or something, just simply chanting in that way, the three of us. That's your installation ceremony. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Hare Nam is the essence of everything, simply chanting the holy name of the Lord. Now there's a question here. Were there any particular deities being worshipped in Dwapara Yuga? I don't know. I mean, the Krishna, of course, is the particular deity, the personality of Godhead, but I don't know particularly about what deities, how they were doing. Okay, let's see. See if I didn't cover anything. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the system of Karmakanda or performance of pious activities for gradual elevation wasn't there in Satyuga. This came later. In Satyuga, simply meditation on Omkar and Narayan. There was no need of these pious activities for gradual progress. So 3 words of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna Rama, by vibrating these 3 transcendental sounds, one calls out to the personality of Godhead and his transcendental energy. This Hare can be taken in 2 ways, as addressing Hari or Krishna, or addressing Krishna's energy, Hara. So Srila Prabhupada takes it as Hara, in vocative Hare, addressing the pleasure potency of the Lord, Hare, and Krishna, addressing the Lord, the personality of Godhead. With and the meaning, of course, these are simply names, Krishna, Hara, Rama. But the purport Srila Prabhupada gives is, please engage me in your service. If we're chanting, we chant with some intention. Why are you chanting? What are you asking for? What do you want to achieve? What is the purpose? So this is our purpose. Please engage me in your service. Ayi nanda tanuja kinkaram. Patitam mam vishame pavambudo kripaya tavapada pankaja. Tatuli sadrasham vichintaya. Please consider me your servant. Please engage me. Please pick me up. Patitam mam vishame pavambudo. I've fallen into the ocean of birth and death by forgetting you, by having my own project for my own independent enjoyment. But that's not effective. So, Kripaya, by your causeless mercy, Tavapada Pankaja Stitituli Satvishna. Consider me just to be like a little particle of dust at your lotus feet. I don't have to be a big something. Just even to be a speck of dust at your lotus feet, that would be enough. Anything at your lotus feet. You don't have to be the top man, the most celebrated, the most this, that. If I can be like a little particle of dust in the service of Krishna, that will be very nice. All right, are there some questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, maybe you could speak something on Radhastami. If there's any questions, devotees, please raise your hand. Come forward. Hare Krishna.
I think there's a question that was written in the chat.
I've already answered that one. Yes, about the deities. So Radhastami, the appearance of Srimati Radharani, Srila Prabhupada explained that Radharani is the transcendental pleasure potency of Krishna. Parasya Shaktir Vidhaya Vishriyate. The personality of Godhead means with his energies. Without energies, there's no meaning of absolute truth. The sun is the sun because of its sunshine. Without the sunshine, the sun is meaningless. Without power, the king is meaningless. Without money, the businessman is nothing. They have to have these powers, power, money, capability, authority, armies, different energies. Different powers. So the absolute truth has innumerable different powers or energies. They're primarily divided into three: Chit Shakti, Maya Shakti, Jiva Shakti. The spiritual potency, the material potency, and the marginal potency. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta, Kshetragya Kyatata Para, Vidya Karma Sangyanya, Tritiya Shakti Rishite. Three potencies. The living entity also belongs to the spiritual potency, but when bewildered by Maya, he loses his spiritual standing. And Prakriti Stohi Punkte Prakriti Janaguna. He tries to enjoy the resources of the material energy, and Karanam Guna Sangasya becomes overcome by the material energy through the three modes of nature. Sadasad Yoni Janashu, therefore he's traveling from one lifetime to the next, sometimes in higher life, sometimes in a lower form of life. So this is the marginal living being in the conditioned world. Otherwise, he can also be in the liberated position in the spiritual world. That's his normal, happy condition. And apart from the material energy and the marginal energy, there's the spiritual energy, the energy of the spiritual world. That spiritual energy also has three divisions: Samvit, Sandhini, and Vladini. The Samvit is the knowledge potency by which the Lord knows everything, or by which the Lord can also be known. And Samvit. And Sandhini, the Lord's existence potency, by which he manifests everything, by which he manifests the material and spiritual worlds, by which he manifests everything. The whole spiritual sky is manifested by the energy of the personality of Godhead in the form of Lord Balaram. So that's the Sandhini energy. And Hladini is the pleasure energy, pleasure potency of the Lord. So that energy gives pleasure to the Lord. These are the three features of the living being: to know, to exist, and to enjoy. So Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and for his enjoyment, he manifests his pleasure potency. There's no difference between the Lord and his pleasure energy, just as there's no difference between the sun and the sunshine. They're identical. And yet, although they're identical, they're separately manifested for the Lord's enjoyment. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Hladini Shakti Rasmat. The personality of Godhead is one, but for enjoyment, he manifests himself as two. Radha Krishna. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Hladini Shakti Rasmat. So the activities of, and Radharani, Srimati Radharani expands herself further as the principal gopis, as the Dwarka Ranis, the queens in Dwarka, yes, as the Lakshmis in Vaikuntha. When the Lord expands as Narayan, then Srimati Radharani expands as Lakshmi Devi. When the Lord expands as Ram, then she expands as Sita Devi. So just to give pleasure to the Lord. Parasya Shaktir Vividaya Vishriyate. But the original Lakshmi is Srimati Radharani. Just as the original personality of Godhead is Krishna, and he expands himself in so many forms. The original personality of the pleasure energy is Srimati Radharani. And she expands herself also in so many different forms. What is it that gives pleasure to Krishna? What is it that gives pleasure to Krishna? It's not money. Yeah, he's Bhagavan. Aishvarasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashasha Shriya. He's the owner of everything. Sarvaloka Maheshwara. He owns all the planets. So what will we give him for his pleasure when he already owns everything, already possesses everything? Ban means one who possesses. So bhaktya mam abhijanati. The Lord is pleased by devotional service. Only by devotional service. The Gyanis, the Karmis, the Yogis can't satisfy the Lord. The Lord's not satisfied by karma, by Gyan, by attempts to merge into his effulgence. Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mayi te shrujapyam. But the Lord has an intimate relationship with the devotees. Therefore, he comes as Nrsingadev to protect Prahlad Maharaj, only because Prahlad's a devotee. He speaks Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Bhaktosi me sakha cheti, because you're my friend and you're my devotee. The implication is, if you weren't my friend, if you weren't my devotee, I wouldn't explain this to you. So the devotional service is the essence of the pleasure potency. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, has said that a characteristic of devotional service is that it's so strong that it attracts even Krishna. It attracts even Krishna. So that Bhadini Shakti is not just a diffuse force, but appears as the greatest devotee of Krishna, Srimati Radharani, and their dealings are exchanges of devotional service. In the material world, the dealings of a boy and girl are simply for sense gratification. But in the spiritual world, everything is on a different platform. So what we see in the material world is just the perverted reflection of the spiritual reality. And the spiritual reality is the target. Now, there's some questions. Why is the pleasure received from the expansions less than the original, though it's coming from the absolute? Krishna receives more pleasure from Radharani than her expansions. From one point of view, the pleasure is absolute. Therefore, Krishna, Lord Ramchandra told Hanuman that this little squirrel is kicking some dust into the ocean. He's pleasing me as much as you are by throwing big boulders. Because devotional service is absolute. It's not that, or the Krishna went to the home of Bahulashva and Shrutadev, a king and a Brahmin. And they both offered their service to the Lord. The king offered royal service. The Shrutadev offered very humble, modest offerings. And Krishna was equally pleased in both places. Because it's not that the dal, rice, and chapatis or the big feast pleases Krishna, it's the devotion. Without devotion, Krishna is not interested in anything. So the devotion is there. Lakshmi is devoted, Sita is devoted, all the expansions are fully devoted to the Lord. So the Lord is pleased by all of them, and it's all on the absolute platform. There's no gradation, higher or lower. Everything is absolute. But still, by analysis, Radha, Krishna are the original. But whatever pleasure is manifest anywhere else, the source is in Srimati Radharani. So therefore she's called Sarva Lakshmi. All the Lakshmis are included in Srimati Radharani. So yes, maybe that's enough of an answer in the time available. Is there significance to the ordering of the words in the Hare Krishna mantra? Significance is that's how it's come. So just leave it as it is. We don't mix it up. Hare, 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 Krishna, 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 Rama, 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 Rama. Significance is that's what we received from the Parampara system. Just take it. Does the word Rama in the mantra refer to Lord Ram or to the some quality of Krishna? It's not to a quality, it's a name of Krishna. Rama is a name of Krishna. You can take that name to indicate Krishna himself, because he's the supreme enjoyer, or Raghupati Ram, or Parshuram. They can all be addressed as Rama, or Krishna can be addressed as Rama, but not that it's addressing a quality of Krishna, it's just addressing Krishna himself in terms of his quality, because he's the supreme reservoir of pleasure and the supreme enjoyer. So he's called Rama, or Ramante Yogino Anante Satyananda Chidatmani Iti Rama Padena So Param Brahma Vidhiyate. The absolute truth is known as Rama, because he's the source of unlimited pleasure. Does any part of the mantra refer to Srimati Radharani? Yes, Hare addresses Hara. Hara means the pleasure potency of the Lord, Srimati Radharani. So Hare Krishna, O Srimati Radharani, O Krishna. Yes. So therefore, by chanting Hare Krishna, everything is included. We don't need to chant this, that, and the other thing, inventing mantras, concocting mantras, picking up mantras from here and there. Simply Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everything's included in this Maha Mantra. Krishna is included, Srimati Radharani is included. All of their expansions are included automatically. When you have the $100 bill, then the 5, 10, 20, 50 are all included. Everything's included in these 16 words. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hari Hari. All right, we're at 8 o'clock, so this is our stopping point. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Radha and Krishna. And if we want to approach Radha Krishna, then we should approach through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana. To approach Radha Krishna will be a little difficult, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the most merciful form, with the merciful nature of Srimati Radharani. So we should try to understand Radha Krishna by going through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtana. Jaya.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much, Maharaj. Thanks,
Hare
everyone.